another evening in the lives of the Vaishnavacharyas. My name is Chataratma Das. Last week we had the great opportunity to speak about Sanatana Goswami. And this evening we're going to continue. As I mused last week, it was not even possible to consider the fact that we would speak about Sanatana Goswami all in one session. And of course we went considerably over and didn't speak about him just in that one session. So tonight we're going to pick up where we left off, maybe a little bit of a refresher. One thing I did want to discuss just a bit before we start back up with Sanatana Goswami is, as we mentioned last week, the personalities of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami are highly advanced individuals. These are devotees that, like all of us, but even more so I should say, have an internal and an external level of devotional service. Just like many of us have taken to the process of Krishna consciousness, and we have somehow or another come in contact with a spiritual master, either Srila Prabhupada directly or indirectly through his disciples and through his books. Come in contact with the path of devotional service, and we begin our external development of devotional activities. At the same time, we do have an internal process of devotional service, a process by which we develop our realizations, a process by which we feel our advancement, and a process by which Krishna gives us that little tinge of appreciation for devotional service that keeps us going year after year after year after year. So these are the two sides of our Krishna consciousness, our external and our internal. And indeed, the Acharyas have given us this example in many of the different pastimes of the Lord. There's an internal and an external reason. An internal reason why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and an external reason why he appeared. An internal reason why he accepted sannyas, and an external reason why he accepted sannyas. So these different understandings are there. So last week we discussed a great deal of the external activities of Sanatana Goswami. It shouldn't be misunderstood that by external we mean to diminish the activities, that they're less important, or that they have a lesser degree of value. They're equally as valuable. Reminds me, Prabhupada said once that the tasting of a sweet ball, the tasting of Krishna's pastimes rather, it's just like eating a sweet ball. Doesn't matter if you eat the sweet ball from the top or the bottom. As a matter of fact, I just had the good fortune on my way over here. I had to drop something off at the kitchen. And sitting outside of the kitchen was the Mahaprasad offering from the last offering to the deities. And there was very little left, but there was one glubjaman. And so I got that one glubjaman. Now, had I eaten this glubjaman from the left side, it would have tasted exactly the same as if I had eaten it from the right side. Had I eaten it from the top, it would have tasted exactly the same as had I eaten it from the bottom. Of course, everyone knows the way you eat a glubjaman is to throw in your mouth and eat it all at once. At any rate, so the pastimes of Krishna are similarly just like that. That regardless of where we approach them or enter into the hearing them, the benefit is there. So in the same way, the pastimes of the pure devotee associates of the Lord are of the same caliber. So last week we happened to discuss the early years of Sanatana Goswami. We happened to discuss his life, his early life, his exchanges with his brother, his engagement in the Muslim service, all of these different things, and his getting away from these, and then ultimately ending up with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there in Benares. And of course, this is where we're going to pick up just as Mahaprabhu is finishing his instructions and converting Sanatana Goswami to the full realm of devotional service. Many of the pastimes we will discuss today involve the more internal mood of Sanatana Goswami. That is, they revolve more around his relationship with Krishna, his relationship with Srimati Radharani, his relationship with Vrindavan on the highest of spiritual levels. It's a very important thing as we progress in devotional service that we not falsely try to place ourselves on a level we're not. 99.9% of us were from the conditioned state and are just purifying ourselves and coming through. There are those rare few devotees who are of the highest caliber and have come to assist the Lord in his pastimes. And therefore their activities have a completely different quality than ours. So the activities we will hear today of Sanatana Goswami are indeed quite charming. They're indeed very, very sweet. But we should not misunderstand that these are activities we can also take up. We'll see how Sanatana Goswami talks one-on-one with his deity. Now, of course, as we develop a relationship with our own Ishtadev, the own deity of our heart that we may be worshipping, it's expected that some prayers will be offered, heartfelt prayers. Request will be given. Sanatana Goswami had the rare distinction that when he would speak with the deity would speak right back to him. So I may go before my Govardhan Shila I've been worshipping for some time, or I may go before Radha Shyam Sundar here, and I may offer some prayer. I may beg for them to assist me in my service, but they're not going to answer me back. They're going to answer me in the devotional way of facilitating my service. They're going to answer me by giving me confirmation within my heart. They're not going to speak to me. Or at least let me just put it this way. If they are, I'm not purified enough to hear it. So I say all of this because, as I point out, the pastimes we'll be speaking about with Sanatana Goswami today are from this realm of devotional service. Not from the realm of him inquiring from Mahaprabhu, how do I advance spiritually? What is my real purpose? These were the activities that we spoke about last week. The famous Kayami. The famous Kayami verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Who am I? What is my position? This is the level of approaching devotional service that Sanatana Goswami mentions. Now, this is not to say that he then became very proud of himself and Krishna talked to him and everything was fine. He still maintained that principle of humility. We spoke about this last week, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said that through Sanatana Rupa I will manifest the quality of humility. So that quality of humility still manifests itself, but just in a different method. So we finished last week with Sanatana Goswami residing in Varanasi, Benares, and with the Lord instructing him. And then at that time, with him beginning the process of getting detailed pastimes, detailed instructions from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I mentioned that when we closed off that the Bhagavatam was explained to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya by the Lord in 18 different methods, different styles, different ways. And so Sanatana requested, my dear Lord, you please explain those 18 to me. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went a step further, he explained it in 61 different ways. So, very, very nice like that. So, in this way, the instruction of the Lord to Sanatana Goswami continued on. While staying there in Benares, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, converted Prakasananda Saraswati, the chief of the Mayavadi, of the impersonal sannyasis, converted him to the Vaishnava path. And so in this way, these different activities were taking place. Excuse me. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then completed his instructions to Sanatana, very, very thorough instructions, and sent Sanatana, now you go to Vrindavan. Remember, this is what he was instructed to do by Rupa Goswami. He received, well, ultimately he was instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his youth. You remember he had that dream, and the dream was the same dream that Rupa Goswami had the same night, and they confirmed the next morning, yes, this beautiful mendicant appeared before me and told me, do not worry, I shall soon deliver you, and you'll go to Vrindavan and accomplish great service for me. So very nice like that. So, in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finished his instruction to Sanatana and said, okay, now you go to Vrindavan. So Sanatana left to go to Vrindavan. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then returned to Puri. Of course, Mahaprabhu took the less frequented path. What's that famous writer, American, The Path Less Traveled? I can't remember his name. At any rate, so he took the path less traveled, as they would say. So Sanatan, eventually he arrived in Vrindavan. And just on the outskirts of Vrindavan, on the main road going into the Brajmala area, he met one devotee that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had sent there. This devotee's name was Subhuti Roy. Subhuti Roy had some sinful past. Which of us doesn't? Who of us doesn't have a sinful past? But Mahaprabhu delivered Subhuti Roy and specifically instructed him, you go live in Vrindavan. And so while living there, Subhuti Roy supported himself by collecting firewood and selling it to the pilgrims. Now, of course, how much money can you make selling firewood? I remember when I lived in New York City. Of course, you know, in New York City, all the buildings are heated. There's no need for living by heating yourself, warming yourself with a fire. But it was a very nice mood to have a fireplace in your home and be able to have fire. But of course, where are you going to get the wood? In the middle of New York City, you can't just go to, you know, Central Park and chop down a tree and drag it home. So they would sell these bundles of firewood at the grocery store, and they were so ridiculously priced. And people would pay because, oh, just the atmosphere of being able to burn firewood in your home in a fireplace. And we did it a couple of times. But at any rate, so in this way, Subhuti Roy supported himself, making a very meager living. But there's one very, very essential lesson to be learned from Subhuti Roy's life. Whatever he made, he would use that in the service of the Vaishnavas. So this is a very, very nice point because, I mean, barely able to make a living. But whatever Vaishnavas would come to Braj, he would provide for them. Give them some place, you know, provide them with some food like this, something to eat. So this is a very, very important lesson to us. We should never think, oh, I have too little to give to Krishna. I'm not making enough. When I make a bigger salary, when my economic situation changes, when my material facilities increase, then I will give to Krishna. Krishna will not let any of those things happen if we don't give to him first. Our first obligation is to give to Krishna because everything's coming from Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said if we don't give to Krishna, then we are like a thief that we have taken. So Subhuti Roy was living like this, very, very simply. So he took Sanatana Goswami in. He and one other Brahmin from the area, they took Sanatana around to all the different 12 forests of Vrindavan. And he was inquiring, where is Rupa? Where is, who was with Rupa? Anupam, Rupa and Anupam, excuse me. Because remember, Rupa and Anupam had escaped the service of the Muslim Shah. And that's when Sanatana got thrown in jail. So they had gone to Vrindavan. They had been there for some time. So Sanatana finally went to Vrindavan to join them. And Subhuti told me, oh, they've returned to Puri to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the Rath Yatra. So this way, very... Now, we'll cut into the story just a bit to Rupa Goswami. And Rupa has traveled this distance. Unfortunately, Rupa arrived in Bengal a little bit too late to get the group of devotees. Now, some of you may remember, Bluegrass, you've been with us several weeks. Kivan, you've been with us several weeks. You may remember that the devotee that arranged for the travel from Bengal to Puri was Shivananda Sain. We spoke about him a couple of weeks ago. Shivananda Sain arranged this. So Rupa arrived in Bengal just a little bit after Shivananda Sain had gone with the devotees. So what was he to do? So he went and met with Haridas Thakur, and then the two of them traveled. They went to Puri in this way. And when he arrived, when Rupa Goswami arrived in Puri, then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Rupa, said, so how is Sanatan? And Rupa said, well, we actually went on two different roads. So he was going and I was coming, we missed each other, so I haven't met him yet. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very disappointed to hear about that. So, in the meantime, Sanatana Goswami is still in Vrindavan and he's going around to the different places. Now, we remember that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Vrindavan for the first time, he discovered Radhakund and Shyamakund. They were near the village of Arita. Arita was, of course, short for Aristasura, Aritagram. Aritagram is the village, let's see if I can remember this. I'm forgetful right now of how the derivative of the name came to be what the city is now. But at any rate, this is the village just near Radhakund, Shamkund, where Aristasura was killed by Krishna, and then the gopis demanded that he dig the kund to purify himself and like that. That's a whole other story. So then after there, then he went to Govardhan, where he would see the Haridev deity. And the Haridev deity was so beautiful there. Wonderful, wonderful deity to go see. And then he had wanted to follow in the footsteps of Mahaprabhu. Now Mahaprabhu had wanted to go to Govardhan and go to the top to see Gopal Roy. But of course, Mahaprabhu took Govardhan Hill to be non-different than Krishna, so he refused to climb. And to this day, those of us who are the followers in the footsteps of Mahaprabhu, we do not go on Govardhan Hill. Beautiful temple up there, we're told, but we don't go up there. So Mahaprabhu desired this, and Gopal, Giridhari Gopal, actually desired to give his darshan to Mahaprabhu. So this was at a time when there was panic about the Muslims coming and destroying deities, and also they brought the deity of Gopal off Govardhan Hill down for safekeeping to the village of Gutali. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got to have his darshan there. So anyway, he finished his tour of Vrindavan and he decided, okay, now I should go to Puri. At least if I go to Puri, I'll be able to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he went through the Jharikanda forest. The Jharikanda forest, of course, we know from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, very, very wonderful place. But it's just that, it's a forest. There's no freshwater wells. There's no running tap water. Lions and tigers and deer. They're all there together and dancing, and elephants and all these wild animals. So Sanatana Goswami went this way, and as a result of drinking many, many, many days of impure water, he got infection, scabies, sores on his body and pus and like that. So he arrived in Puri, and he first went to see Haridas Thakur. He didn't directly want to go before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because of all these sores, and he felt himself unfit to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he didn't want to go to the temple to take darshan of Lord Jagannath because he felt himself unfit to be in front of Jagannath. And if he went that way, then maybe one of the pujaris might accidentally bump into him and they would be contaminated, and then he'd commit a great offense. This is actually a reason why the Sevites of a temple, the pujaris, would generally live within the compound of the temple. So they didn't have to go outside to go to do their seva, and thus take the possibility of becoming contaminated like that. So, in this way, he was thinking like that, and he stayed with Haridas Thakur in Jagannath Puri there. And this is interesting because when he went to Haridas Thakur, the two of them embraced. Now, he didn't want to have association with Jagannath or the pujaris or Mahaprabhu because they might touch him. But he understood Haridas Thakur has no, he's also of a so-called lower birth. So they embraced each other. He was very happy to stay there. And in due course of time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to know Sanatana is here. So he came, and Sanatana was standing there, and Mahaprabhu came forward to embrace him. And Sanatana Goswami backed away. Mahaprabhu, no, he physically grabbed him and embraced him, hugged him like this. And so, Sanatana Goswami was feeling very, very, very bad, this sores on his body and all like this. So, anyway, he was, he was just not very happy to have this happen. So, then, of course, Sanatana conceived this idea then that he would leave his body. He was actually staying at the Siddhabakul tree with Haridas Thakur. Now, those of you that have been to Puri, that area there's very, very nice. There's many great devotees' temples and homes on that 2-3 block area there. It's a very wonderful place. If you get to go to Puri, actually, I'll mention at this point that the next 2 Mondays, I won't be here. I'm going to be in Poland preaching at the Woodstock Festival. And we're still uncertain about next Monday, but the following Monday, the 4th of August, we're going to have a guest speaker, and that guest speaker will be Dhruva Maharaj Das, my good friend that I've mentioned many times in these broadcasts, and he's going to speak about the Vaishnavas of Puri, all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas that resided there. So this will be a nice opportunity. But at any rate, so in this place there, Mahaprabhu came, and he came to know that Sanatana was thinking that I'm going to commit suicide. I should throw myself underneath the cart of Lord Jagannath. This would be a suitable end for me.